Okay, I think I'll begin. Can you see my screen, Amma?
Yes, thank you, Narissa.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So welcome to your logistics course LSCM5122. So today I'm just going to go over an introduction, just some of the tick boxes in terms of our semester. And then we're going to go over Learning Unit 1, Theme 1. And if there's any questions at all, just put your hand up or just unmute yourself and you can ask the questions as we proceed. Okay. So,
Okay, thank
yes.
you. And I just want to say, okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem at all. I'm recording the session just in case we obviously have more students, and then I'll just upload it and you can also have a look at it if at any stage you missed something during the lecture. Okay. All right. So firstly, my name is Nirsa Haricharan. If you hear dogs in the background, please just mind it because I am currently doing the lecture at home. I currently live in Durban. I am a branch manager for a global logistics company in the branch that's sitting in Durban. We currently have about 18 branches nationally, and I manage the branch from a commercial perspective, so sales as well as retention, operations management, so whether it's routing of drivers, how best we can optimize, agents and routes, as well as accounting or credit control, customer services. So everything that basically flows into the supply chain of the business, I'm part of. I have a master's degree, master's in commerce in supply chain management, and I am a double master's graduate. Just completed in July at Gibbs. It's an NQF level 9. IEDP for women. So it's an international executive development program for women. And the feature is predominantly women in transport or women in logistics. So quite a gruesome process to get in and get accepted. They chose 15 women from around South Africa to basically get into the program where you were able to go on a local as well as an international immersion. Based on that, we went to Vietnam and to Switzerland just to view some of the transport systems and understand what a sort of developed and a developing country has with regards to their transport network, how much of emphasis they put into it, how much of resources they put into it, grants, funding, etc. So as we go along, I'll try and use as much examples as possible to get you to understand how things work in other places. Okay, my email address is provided here, as well as my contact number. So if you haven't yet sent me an email, if you need anything, please feel free to do that. My WhatsApp number is my contact number. So if you need anything via WhatsApp, then you can just contact me as well. Okay, I'm going to just go over the PACER. Just want to stop sharing so I can get through to the next one. And the PACER is basically what we're going to use for the semester in terms of how we're going to be going through our learning units, the dates, the timelines, the assignments or assessments that's due, and how I pace out the semester so that it benefits you at the end of the day. So firstly, we have four ICE tasks that we are required to do for the semester. I've listed the dates for the ICE tasks below, which I'll go through. There is, and the ICE tasks all equate or contribute towards 10% of your CAS mark. You have 2 assignments this semester, so one that's contributing 30% and one that's contributing 25%. And then your examination, which contributes 35%. So your assignment 1 is going to feature Learning Unit 1 right down to Learning Unit 4. Your assignment 2 is going to feature Learning Unit 1 right down to Learning Unit 7. And then your examination is Learning Unit 5 to Learning Unit 10. Okay, we're obviously going to go through all of the learning units. I try my best to do initiatives where we basically pull together different factors from past assignments or past examinations and try and use that as case studies for some of your ICE tasks. So you get into tune of what's the expectations when you get an assignment or an examination. Assignments, from what I can see under your Varsity College website, sort of your shared folders, is released. So please go and check up on that. However, past is not released, meaning I cannot tell you what the due date on those assignments are. If we are saying Learning Unit 1 to Learning Unit 4 in Assignment 1, it is only makes sense for Assignment 1 to follow after Learning Unit 4. I paced out the learning units exactly the way the module outline basically aligns with it. So if I'm not mistaken, your first assignment should be due round about the end of March. Your next assignment should be due round about the end of probably beginning of May. And then obviously your examination will be at the end of May, actually, I think beginning of June. Okay, so that's how I paced it out. This pacer is subject to change. So post this session, I will post the pacer on under announcements for ARC. And then when you see that, you'll be able to, live with it until I update it the next time. Every time I update it, I will call it a different version. So you know that you are looking at the most recent version of the pacer. Okay. So the pacer looks like this. We're obviously starting today on a basically introduction and your learning unit 1 theme 1. I am going to go pretty slow in the beginning because it does pace itself into the textbook. So in the beginning, you'll see me going a little bit slower, and then we'll go into a faster rhythm as we get the hang of it. Your lectures are scheduled on your timetable as every second week as a live lecture, but to alternate in between that second week, I will be doing a live recording. There is a lot to basically capture with 10 units or 10 learning units. So having probably 14, let's say 7 live lectures is not enough. So we're basically making it 14 lectures in total, and I'm having one national support session or an academic support session that we're calling it this semester, and a Q&A session, just so that if you are not understanding a specific topic, I'm there to then, answer any questions that you may have, probably go over a little bit of revision for the examination. Whatever you need me to do is what's going to happen on the 29th of May. Okay, your ICE tasks, your first one's due on the 13th of March, second one on the 27th, third one on the 17th of April, and fourth one on the 8th of May. This as well, very subject to change, purely because it's based on, I don't want it to clash with your assignment or be too close to your assignment, because then it becomes very difficult for you to now focus on something that's 30% worth of your CAS mark. So I will change the ICE task due dates when we get past released. Okay. The next thing is your ICE tasks are very important for you to do. It not only helps you for your assignment or assignments, but it also contributes 10% of your CAS mark. I mean, it's marks for basically something that you can very well interpret based on a single session or a single learning unit that I would then, do a case study on. So make sure that you 100% do all of your ICE tasks. Okay. Let me move back to the presentation. Stop sharing. Yeah, it's a little bit different to Blackboard, but we will all get the hang of all of this. All right. So I went through the pace already. PASS is obviously not released as yet. I checked it today, so I know for sure that it is not released. But I will keep checking, and then you will see my announcements. I will flood you with announcements as much as I possibly can when it comes to due dates, etc., just so that everybody is aware. Okay. ARC. Obviously, some of you are doing, you were at BC last year, so you understand how Blackboard worked, etc. And now we are all trying to navigate ARC. I know it is very different. However, we will help each other in this process. Um, um, from a team's perspective, I'm quite familiar with how it works. So I know how the recordings, all of that. So everything, I've already done one session with another module where I've uploaded all of their recordings, etc. So everything's running smoothly from that tech perspective. Um, After every session, I will make sure that on ARC you have your slides, as well as any all of your recordings. So just know that that is from myself, from a support perspective, will be there. The third one is academic integrity. When you go and click on the little widget on ARC, the first thing that it takes you through is academic integrity. It is taken absolutely seriously. If, for instance, you are not referencing correctly or there's any sign of plagiarism, you do get penalized. I mean, you can get penalized anything from 10 to 15% if it's major differences in terms of referencing. Or if it's minor, then it can go up to it can be about 5% of penalty. So just keep that in mind to make sure that you are referencing correctly. If you are unsure how to reference, please visit the IIE referencing guideline, number one, or number two, go and speak to someone in library. Let them help you to understand how best to reference so that it doesn't get pulled out in Turnitin. I don't think we're not obviously not using SafeAssign anymore, so Turnitin. So understand that perspective of academic integrity and referencing so that you basically have a very low percentage. The fourth one is submission of assignments. So please make sure that you submit your assignments on time every time. There is a penalty as well if there is a late submission. So if you submit within 24 hours of the due date, or after the due date, it is a 15% penalized percentage, I think. And anything more than 24 hours, you basically get 0%. So please keep that in mind and make sure that you are submitting it correctly in the correct format. I do know that obviously ARC is very different to how previously Blackboard used to be. So make sure when it is the first assignment, you're probably doing it a little bit more in advance to the due date so that you can double check and triple check your work. Okay, the last one is the prescribed textbook. I obviously put the shorter version here. Kruger Rampal Operations Management, 4th edition. I think it's Oxford, if I'm not mistaken. Please make sure that you get the textbook. There is a lot of concepts when it comes to supply chain management, operations management. So I would like for you to understand these concepts. There's only so much that I can go through in a lecture. A lot of it needs to be done by yourself when you have an opportunity to go through the textbook as well as the rest of the learning units. So please make sure you do that. On ARC, there is activities. I can view on ARC how many people have opened an activity or visited an activity, etc., or even opened a module under a widget on your specific module. So please make sure you are visiting those concepts. Do the activities. I know it doesn't contribute towards your CAS mark, but please do the activities because it only helps you. So once we are done with the lecture, a lecture that's doing, let's say you're learning unit 1, theme 1, go into the activity for learning unit 1, theme 1. Try and understand it a little bit more and then maybe do the activity. Use the textbook, align yourself with the activity and answer that respective question. It is self-graded, most of it is. So please do it so that you can see exactly where you are losing out on and what you need more understanding on. And then we can maybe discuss it in the next live lecture. Okay, so let's keep it as open as possible and do as much work as we possibly can behind the scenes of a lecture. Okay, I think that's about it. Is there any questions? I know you're the only one on the call, but any questions from your side?
No, I'm fine so far. Thank you, Narissa.
Okay, perfect, 100%. Okay, so I think we can go into our actual lecture. And the first thing is we need to understand what is operations management. So this is the textbook version of what operations management is. I'm going to go through some examples just so that you have more of an understanding of what operations management is. So operations management basically is the administration of business practices, which is aimed at ensuring maximum efficiency within an organization. So whether it's planning, organizing, or supervising a particular process, it's transforming that material or labor into goods and services as efficiently as possible so that we can maximize as much profit for the business or organization. So an example of this, because I know it's not always easy to understand or grasp a concept by a textbook definition. So it's always nice to use examples. So I chose two industries. Number one is the retail industry. And if we understand the retail industry, it's how does operations management fit in a retail industry? So the first one is from a supply chain perspective, it's when we work with the different suppliers on stock. Making sure that those suppliers deliver the products to the stores on time so that you minimize as much stock out as possible, and you also minimize your overstock situation. So for instance, if you are an Edgar's, you have multiple suppliers that feature in the Edgar's range. So whether it's Forever New or Mango or Kelso or Playtex, whatever that brand is, all of them, they're responsible and part of the ops management and supply chain of the retail industry. So it's basically coordination with them to making sure that the business runs smoothly by making sure that there's stock on hand. So coordinating in that perspective. Capacity planning, also part of operations management in terms of how do you plan for peak seasons, whether it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, um, holidays, festive seasons or holidays. It's hiring temp staff and then making sure that you have your maximum stock level in that particular store that can cater to the demand of the public. So what is your capacity planning in that perspective? And then the last one here is customer services. So you have a whole host of tellers, and I know I get frustrated when it's peak or festive or some holiday period, and I walk into a mall or into a store, and it is busy. There's 25 people standing in the queue, and they only have one teller. It can frustrate everybody. So just making sure that you implement a checkout process that's efficient, and also a return policy that's efficient. Is it a place where, like I know Edgar's has it, and I know I'm using Edgar's example a lot, but Edgar's has a separate teller or customer services where you return to. Actually, I think Woolworths as well. You go to a separate place to return your item compared to standing in the normal queue where you would buy an item. So it's things like that. How can you make sure that within your operations things run smoothly? Hospitality industry. So capacity planning from this perspective as well. So making sure that you forecast sufficiently for the demand of whether it's food or whatever item it is, so that you can optimize what your pricing is going to be. So whether it's someone checking into a hotel and you need to understand what the price of that room is, what you need to understand what the maximum occupancy is for that hotel or that specific room in the hotel. So it's doing a lot of capacity planning, is part of operations management. Process design. So this is basically to make sure that you have a good check-in process. So it needs to be as streamlined as possible. So when people are checking in and checking out, they're doing it on time. There's no long queue standing in at 2 o'clock when you have to check in, or 3 o'clock. I think now it's moved to. So 3 o'clock when you're now checking in, to make sure that your guests have a really good experience. And then the last one is quality management, making sure that there's cleanliness, and you have efficient service so that you have consistency, people keep coming back to you, and your guests actually have a very high level experience. So this is just to give you more or less an idea of what features within operations management. It's the day-to-day running of the business. In a logistics environment, which is in the environment that I'm in, you can basically, or sales consultant can basically sell, let's say it's last mile delivery until they are blue in the face. But if your operations team and operations management is not, efficient and optimized, unfortunately, the sale will not be able to go on. So within a logistics environment, a lot of times it has to do with planning, from an operations perspective. So whether it's planning particular routes, planning timelines, planning, who does it or which individual does it, how do you monitor it, what is the SLAs involved, what are the KPIs of that particular driver, are they employed by the organization or are they someone that is an owner driver? So we need to just understand from that perspective what features within logistics or operations management in a logistics environment. Okay. Okay, then we go on to the importance of operations management. So basically, we understand that ops features massively in every single organization or industry, but we need to understand, you know, how does it help an organization to achieve competitive advantage, to be the best in that specific industry and be able to deliver as much value to their customers as possible so that the value chain continues. So the first one is from a cost leadership perspective, and it is, how can an organization or a business aim to become basically the lowest cost producer in the industry? So you want to understand how they can withhold quality, so have good quality, but also offer a lower price than their competitor. So this contributes to having an efficient or an effective operations management system. If you can optimize as much as possible, you can become a cost leader in the industry. How can you be flexible? How can you be responsive in terms of be as agile as possible? Markets change. You need to be able to change your operations management process to the market demand of a particular industry. Like, for instance, when COVID hit, okay, nobody expected to go into lockdown, but it happened. So people needed to be as flexible and as responsive as possible in order to have a pretty agile operation system so that they could go with how the lockdown went. So whether it meant you could only move items that were what did they call it at that time? But the ones that were, the most important ones, like your medications, etc., etc. So how do you now focus your business completely on something that can bring you revenue as opposed to something that can't bring you revenue? Then you have supply chain management, which is very important as part of ops. It's basically how can you coordinate your have a smooth coordination between your supplier, between your production or your manufacturing department, as well as your distribution. So everyone that phases within an organization, how can you ensure that you have a seamless operation system with all of your departments part of your supply chain? Then you have innovation, which is absolutely crucial when it comes to operations management, purely because if you are not innovating all the time, you are not optimizing, which means you are throwing money at something that is not bringing you any change. So with innovation, you want to be able to create and implement as much new ideas as possible, whether it's new products or new services or new processes, so that you can improve efficiency within your business or organization, and you can get competitive advantage from that. So it's just understanding how important innovation is to your business in order for you to take it forward and for you to get as much optimization as possible. And then we have strategic management, which focuses on basically all of your aspects of business. You want to be able to align your goals with operations, with manufacturing, with distribution, with every single department, so that you can work coherently at towards a common goal or a common vision. So it's understanding how all of these factors actually contribute towards operations management and how operations management contributes towards the success of your organization. Okay. Any questions so far? Are we good? We sort of understand?
Yes, thank you, Narissa.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then we're going on to the role of operations management. And the first one is that we're going to look at is economic growth, right? So operations management obviously plays a very important role in, whether it's society or business, to make sure that you have an efficient process, whether it's production or whether it's delivery of goods and services, whatever that role of operations is in that specific organization. So it basically has key aspects that contribute towards economic development and quality of life, etc. So the first role for economic growth and development is job creation. So if you have an efficient operations management, it basically leads to you having growth in your business. You want to innovate, you want to gain more revenue. Gaining more revenue means expansion. Expansion means job creation. So creating jobs, improving livelihood, that sort of thing. That's how operations management specifically contributes to social well-being of the organization or just to society in general. Um, Productivity, also a huge role. Um, Basically, if you improve from a productivity perspective, it contributes to economic growth. We do know, the more you produce, the more you sell, demand increases. When demand increases, revenue increases, expansion, economic growth. And innovation, you want to drive as much innovation as possible within your processes so that you can have a very dynamic and competitive economy. You don't want to be a monopoly in an organization, but you want to be part of a competitive industry where you're contributing towards the GDP. The next one is quality of life. Okay, and this is product availability. You want to be able to ensure that goods and services are always available when and where they are needed. So if a consumer is requesting for a particular product, let's say it's from a manufacturing side, let's say it's Coca-Cola. You want to make sure that that product is needed when it's needed, or it's available when it's needed, so that the person who wants to purchase it has a good quality of life. They were wanting a Coca-Cola, here they have a Coca-Cola. So it's making sure that people get what they want. And by having a smooth transition, within an organization, you are making sure that your demand is always fulfilled. Service efficiency, you want to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of your services, whether it's, in the healthcare industry, whether it's education, whether it's public services like our municipalities. You want to be able to have better societal outcomes. Then we have sustainability and innovation. So with the sustainability perspective, it's making sure that we have a good handle on our resources. So efficiency in terms of using resources efficiently and reducing as much waste as possible. So, we talk about green logistics. We think when we talk about waste reduction, and having a good carbon footprint, all of this is part of sustainability. And because a lot of times operations management in an organization is very much either a manufacturing or in part of logistics, it's running vehicles. Sustainability follows a lot of times within an operations management scenario. You want to be able to make sure that you have a clean environmental impact, so that you have practices that is implemented within that particular operations management function or role that minimizes the environmental impact of, you know, um, your carbon emission or your carbon footprint. Also, corporate social responsibility, to engage as much businesses or encourage as much businesses to engage in socially responsible activities. And then the last one is innovation. You want to adopt new technologies, whether it's AI or automation. You want to drive as much, integration of new technologies, and so that there's efficiency in your business. I know with us within an operations management scenario, logistically, we have adopted the, automation of like SWAT machines. So you put a whole lot of parcels on a conveyor, it weighs and dims every single parcel, and then it shoots it into different routes. That is operations. That is driving for success. That is also, making sure that there's an optimized service that's involved. And then the last one is R&D, so supporting research and development, so that you can have new and improved ideas, new and improved processes. Encourage as much ideas within the workplace so that people that are even not within the operations department or don't have that experience can actually generate as much new and innovative ideas that can, aid the business to improve and optimize. Okay, so that's basically the role of operations management. The next one is our scope of operations management. So the first one is process management. And when we're talking about scope, we are looking at, a whole lot of different or a wide array of responsibilities, which is part of operations management that is, categorized into different areas. There's obviously a lot more than this. I just picked on ones that, I feel is a little bit more important or I've resonated with. Obviously, can't go over each and every one of it, but operations management is very multifaceted. It involves overseeing, it involves designing, controlling different processes, whether it's production or of goods, or whether it's redesigning a process, within your organization. That's what operations management is. So following the scope of this, the first one we're looking at is process management. We want to look at process management with two different options. Number one is design, and the next one is improvement. You want to be able to develop efficient processes, basically to convert inputs into outputs. And you want to enhance productivity while you're doing it. So how can you now best improve that specific design or process? And that's what process management is. A lot of organizations actually have an individual within the operations management team that is completely only responsible for process management, especially if you are running a big operation or a big distribution or production or manufacturing. There is always somebody that runs process management. So you want to be able to convert inputs into outputs and also look for improvement strategies of how you can do it cost effectively, quicker, faster, and get it to market. So, that follows quite deeply into operations management. The next one is product and service management. So here we're looking at, from a product design and development side, it's how can we make sure that the product or the service that we are delivering meets the customer's needs, and it's done in high quality. So if you're looking at it from a logistics perspective, it's making sure that the driver takes your delivery out and delivers it at 10 o'clock when he says that he's going to deliver it. So he follows in within SLA and is making sure that, he's fulfilling the customer's need at the end. And service delivery or service management also falls part of that. It's making sure that it's done efficiently and it's done to that customer's satisfaction. Then we have quality management. And from a quality management perspective, we want to make sure that we fulfill as much as possible when it comes to, you know, delivering either that goods or service under the degree that we're saying we're going to deliver. So quality control is a big thing with a lot of organizations, especially if you follow in the manufacturing, whether you are manufacturing input into output, whether you're holding finished good in a finished warehouse. Quality management is a huge feature. It obviously contributes a lot to the reputation of the organization. So it is in the organization's best interest to make sure that quality management is top notch, because you don't want any defective items going out and ruining reputations or damaging any sort of reputation. The next one is supply chain management. So from a supply chain management, we want to make sure that relationships are met. So whether it is your supplier relationship, whether they are supplying you with raw materials, whether they are providing you with semi-finished goods or semi or finished goods, it's making sure that you have a two-way communication, so you have a reliable and steady supply of material. You also want to make sure that you have, efficient uh, uh, resource management. You want to make sure that everything is kosher in terms of um, the sort of products that you are selling, and it falls within the distribution of your products or distribution of your organization. You also want to make sure that you have enough inventory. So inventory management, a big portion of it, you want to be able to balance what your inventory level is to what your demand is to your customer. You don't want to understock or overstock, whether it's raw material or finished good. And then the last part of supply chain management is logistics. It's how do you manage the transport? How do you manage the storage of the stock? So making sure that all of this falls through part of your scope of ops management. Then we have capacity planning. So making sure that from a production side, you are meeting the changing demands of the market, the changing demands of your customers, and you're also allocating enough resource so you can have maximum production. You don't want to hold up a production line because you don't have enough raw material or because there's a part that's missing or materials that's missing. So you want to make sure that you plan from a resource perspective as much as possible. And then the last portion of it is customer services or customer relationship management. And here it's basically once you deliver an item, it's collecting data, collecting and understanding from your customer perspective, what is their feedback? How can you now improve your ops process? How can you improve your service to them? It's your after sales service, whether it is how do you manage a return of a product that maybe skipped through the quality control process? Um, you know, um, what is your after sales support? You want to make sure that your customer comes back and they have as much loyalty as possible. And this generally helps a lot of times, even if it means you're sending a little um, survey or a little questionnaire to a customer once they purchase, especially if your business is in a logistics environment and it is, you're buying from an online or an e-commerce website. A lot of times people blame the company when it's the logistics company's fault. They blame the e-commerce company. So it's understanding by phrasing questions differently because we all know data is king. So when you're getting back the data, it's understanding what benefits or what can you do differently to change your processes and your op structure to contribute towards better customer services. Okay, so that basically takes us to sort of the end of just theme one. As I said today, I'm just going to take it easy and just go through a little bit on ops management to sort of create a little bit of a foundation for you. We're obviously going to go through a lot more with theme two in our next session, which is a recorded session. Yeah, but if there's any questions, please do let me know. I will post the slides, etc., and the recording on ARC as an announcement. But if you have any questions, please do let me know. Okay.
Thank you, Narissa.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye.
Bye.